All right, so here we go. Benchmark. I assigned to you guys, and you should have gotten it today in Benchmark. I'm sorry, not in Benchmark. In Language Arts in Otis, you have this slide deck. It's called Unit 1, Week 1. Do not turn it in until either Thursday or Friday when you're finished with the whole thing, because as you can see, there's day 1, day 2, and day 3. So we're going to spend 3 days on our benchmark instruction. It'll generally be Tuesday is day 1, Wednesday is day 2, Thursday is day 3, okay? I also don't want you working ahead. So today I'm going to ask you to complete slides 2 and 3 after we've done our benchmark together. But I don't want you working ahead. So don't move into day 2 because we haven't started day 2 yet. We're only on day 1. But you'll be able to find this in Otis. When you click on the slides, a lot like the Greek and Latin root slides, there are areas that say type here, and that's where you will click to type your answer. If this is really small and hard to see, you have a magnifying glass function up here. It says zoom. So you can click on that and you can change the size. You can make it larger so you can see it better. You can't see the whole thing at one time, but that's okay. You don't really need to see the whole thing at one time, right? But that'll help it so you can see the questions a little bit bigger and be able to answer them, okay? Again, 5th graders, right? You guys are 5th graders. Expectations, complete sentences, punctuation, capitalization, right? Let's start writing like 5th graders. And then the other page is a writing page, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First thing I want to do is let's actually dive in to our reader. And it's kind of good timing for this one because it is the US Constitution then and now. And what is starting to go on right now in the United States?
The president's being like voted.
Correct.
Yeah, you got it, exactly. It's election time. You guys are here at a fun time. We are electing a new president this year, and that only happens once every 4 years. And we'll talk about that a little more as we get closer to November when the actual elections take place. But, you know, it's kind of a fun time to be in 5th grade because 5th grade does cover a lot of US history. So the US Constitution then and now is what our focus is on for this first unit. So let's go ahead and open up to page 4, I think it is, which is where our first story begins, which is creating the Constitution.
I can't see your screen.
So if you can't see my screen, that's okay. Just listen and make sure you're following along. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
I can.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, so, and like I've said, keep in mind that we are recording these videos. So if, you know, if you need to, you can go back and watch it later also, okay? All right, Camden, I see, oh, never mind, you're good. All right, so creating the Constitution. Here's kind of a fun little fact. When I was in 5th grade, this part right here is called the preamble to the Constitution. And when I was in 5th grade, they made us memorize it. I had to learn it word for word, and guess what? I still know it. It's one of those things that's stuck in my head and won't go away. But the preamble to the Constitution, it was really kind of a big deal because it's the introduction to the Constitution. And the Constitution itself was a really big deal, right? It's this whole new set of laws and rules for a brand new country. So of course it had to start with something powerful and meaningful. And that's this preamble that they came up with. So the preamble says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Now there are lots of big words and there are lots of fancy words. Again, keep in mind the time frame of when the Constitution was written, right? Long, long time ago, over 200 years ago. And people spoke differently at that time. They dressed differently at that time. The handwriting looked different at that time. there were lots of differences between then and now. So as you read parts of the Constitution and speeches given by other people, you kind of have to keep in mind that dialect, that difference in the time and how things sounded and how things looked. So we're going to go ahead and start off by reading paragraph 1. If I have a volunteer who just wants, oh, sorry, Avery, did you have a question?
Yeah, did they, in like older times, did they write in cursive?
They did. Yep. In fact, that used to be required of you guys too, but it's not something that we require anymore.
It was saved.
Which is kind of sad because your guys' grandparents have probably written letters that you might not be able to read anymore because they're written in cursive. So that's kind of, you know, something to keep in mind. Cursive is still a good thing to learn. Okay. All right. Somebody go ahead and unmute. Oh, wait, I see lots of hands. Ashlyn.
I raised my hand for something before, but you already talked about it.
Okay.
Wait,
Morgan.
I want to read the first paragraph.
Okay, go for it, Morgan. Jaslyn, was that your hand too? You want to read? Oh, go for it, Morgan.
These famous words introduce and explain the reason for the U.S. Constitution. These revolutionary document and had considerable historical importance for the United States and the world. Never before had a country established a set of laws for running its government by the people themselves. Over the years, the rights and freedoms listed in the U.S. Constitution have had a great impact on the world. In 1987, 200 years after the Constitution's adoption, Time magazine calculated that of the 170 countries that exist today, more than 160 have written characters modeled directly or indirectly on the U.S. version.
Good. So this is a great introductory paragraph to what this article is going to be about. It's going to be about the Constitution and the creation of the Constitution. So when we're reading, we're looking for those key ideas. I know key ideas, key details, main ideas, all of that is stuff that you guys have been doing year after year as you've been using Benchmark more and more. So when I read this paragraph, the parts that really stand out to me are this statement right here, that never before had a country established a set of laws for running its government by the people themselves. That means we were the first ones to create a set of laws for the people themselves to run the country, not a monarch, not a king, not a dictator, not one big head person in charge who ran everything, but instead all of the people had a say in what was going on. We are the first ones to do that. That's pretty cool. Another part that I find very interesting, that I think is a great key detail, is that of the 170 countries that exist today, so in the world, there's about 170 countries. Now, more than 160 of them have written charters modeled directly or indirectly on the US version. So when we first created our Constitution, nobody else had a Constitution like ours. But now, almost all of them are like ours. We're kind of trendsetters, we're influencers, right? We're kind of cool. So if you have a highlighter, those are great things to highlight. If you don't, if you have a crayon, you could color it. If you just have your pencil, you can underline it. But those are some key details that you want to make sure that you're noting. Avery, did you have a question?
No, I accidentally did that.
Okay, Amaya, do you have a question?
Yeah, so we were kind of like, I don't know, like the leaders to them, like a good example.
Yep, you got it. Spencer, question?
It's more of a fun fact about cursive, I guess.
Okay, go for it real quick.
Cursive was used to save ink because back then, if you lifted the quill, it would have taken more ink to write something.
I love it. That's awesome. Nikita, you have your book? You're getting your work done? Okay, I see your book, but did you highlight the parts that we just highlighted? Okay, it should be open right now so you can be following along with us. All right, Jaslyn, did you want to read paragraph 2?
Yes. How
Go
did
for it.
How did this world-shaking document come to be? In 1787, James Madison and 56 other delegates or representatives came to Philadelphia. They held a series of meetings called the Constitutional Convention. Their goal was to discuss changes to the government formed after the Revolutionary War. Madison had previously created the state constitution for Virginia. The delegates were interested in his ideas. Madison became the principal writer or framer of the Constitution.
Awesome. So now we're getting into how was this Constitution created, right? How was it created? Well, some of these key details for how it was created, I see, they held a series of meetings that they called the Constitutional Convention. And this is James Madison and 56 other delegates. 56 delegates. Think how hard it is sometimes to make a decision just where you want to go out to dinner with your family. And that's maybe 3, 4, 5 people. Could you imagine trying to make decisions for running a country with 57 people in a room? That could be a bit challenging, but they did it. And so they held these meetings that we called the Constitutional Convention. They discussed changes to the government because they didn't like the way King George had been ruling them. They wanted to discuss what was going to be different about the United States of America. Madison, he was kind of important. The delegates were interested in Madison's ideas, okay? Madison had already created a constitution for Virginia, and they thought, hey, he's got some good stuff in there. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. And so Madison became the principal writer of the Constitution, right? Because again, you've got 57 people in the room. Not everybody can be doing the writing. Everybody has to have some different jobs. And Madison was the principal writer for the Constitution. He still had to take everybody's ideas into account when he was doing the writing, but he was the main person. He was the one, and again, he's not typing this, right? He was the one taking his pen and writing it all down, okay? So we've highlighted some great key details here. Let's think about what a good main idea statement would be for these first 2 paragraphs. So when I look at these first 2 paragraphs, kind of what I come up with, and I want you to either write exactly what I write, or you can come up with your own. It's your choice, but you need to combine these into a main idea. So to me, I see that, the Constitution was the first set of laws for a country written by themselves, meaning they came up with their laws. Oops, I started to write laws since I was saying laws. Written by themselves. And that James Madison was the main writer. So I think that that statement kind of sums up everything that we've read on that page, right? The Constitution was that first set of laws written for a country by themselves, by the people. And James Madison was that main writer in the beginning. Give you guys a minute. Morgan, I see a hand up.
If they added another law, would they add it to the Constitution?
Ooh, you are reading a little, or you're thinking ahead. Let's finish the next page and we will answer that question when we finish that next page.
I have a second part to the question also.
Okay.
What would they write if they did add a law to the Constitution? Would they write it or would they type it?
I'm sure it's all typed now.
Probably.
Spencer, did you have another question or was your hand still up from before?
It's another thing I wanted to mention. Every summer I go over to we take a plane to go see family, and we always land at Washington D.C. International. And while we spend like a lot of time there, like a couple of days, and one of the things we do pretty much every time is go see the archives where the Constitution,
Yeah.
the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, all that.
That's awesome. Great history there.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going. Do I have a volunteer to read? Anna, is that your hand up to read?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Madison argued for a strong central government at the time. The 13 states had a lot of power to the governor
A lot of power to govern themselves.
to govern themselves. This made it hard for a national government to collect taxes or create a military. After months of discussion, debate, and compromise, the delegates decided on a final document. They mostly followed Madison's Virginia plan and established a stronger federal government.
Good. So this paragraph is really talking about how they're making this plan, how they're putting it all together. So Madison, again, he's the one doing most of the writing, but he still has to listen to everybody else. So he still needs to share his thoughts. He wanted a strong central government. He thought that was important for them to have a strong central government. But in the end, they mostly followed Madison's Virginia plan. So he got his way. They mostly followed his plan. And they established a strong federal government. So federal is like the president, right? It's all of the United States is federal. And then we also have state government, which is like, you know, our governor, our own California stuff. All right. Question, Avery?
No, I want to read.
All right. Read me paragraph 4.
Madison also helped write a series of newspaper articles called the Federalist Papers. The articles helped persuade readers to accept the new Constitution. Sorry.
Great. Awesome. No, that was a great job. So this is also really important because remember, 57 people in the room created the Constitution. There's not only 57 people in the United States though. So now they need to get everybody else in the United States to buy into the Constitution. So after taking all that time to write the Constitution, now Madison is writing a bunch of separate essays trying to persuade people, hey, this Constitution is amazing. This is exactly what we need, because they needed people to vote to ratify it, to say, yes, we back this Constitution. We agree with it. We're going to follow these laws. So Madison, he helped write those articles called the Federalist Papers. Oh, hang on. I think I'm about to lose you. Let me turn this back on. There we go. And the articles helped persuade readers to accept the new Constitution, persuade them, to convince them that they should accept it. Okay. Morgan, is that a question?
No, I just want to read the next paragraph.
Okay, did you read yet?
Yes.
Okay, can I have one new person read paragraph 5? Someone else who hasn't read? Amaya, go for it.
Okay. Is it 5 or 4?
5.
It's 5.
Okay. Soon after Madison helped create the Bill of Rights. These are the first 10
Amendments.
amendments or addition to the
Constitution.
Constitution. The Bill of Rights lists many key freedoms Americans enjoy today, such as freedom of the press and free speech for all his work on the Constitution. James Madison has been called the father of the Constitution.
You got it. Right. So here, Madison wrote the Constitution. He wrote the Federalist Papers, and then they're like, wait, we left some things out. So then he helped create the Bill of Rights. So Morgan, this is coming back to answer your question. The Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments or changes that they needed to make to the Constitution. Not really changes, more additions to the Constitution. And the Bill of Rights lists a lot of key freedoms that Americans enjoy today. And there have been more changes even since those first 10. So there's, I should have looked it up before. I think there's 20-something amendments to the Constitution. Things like allowing women to vote, okay? Because that wasn't written into the original Constitution. So there have been lots of amendments that have been made when they come up with something that needs to be changed. So there are lots more amendments to the Constitution. So really, to summarize these 3 paragraphs, I think the biggest thing is just that, whoops, I can spell, James Madison has been called the father of the Constitution. That's the main idea. And then everything that we highlighted, those key details that support why he was called that father of the Constitution. Morgan, question?
Sort of. So going back to my earlier question, say the president would make another one, they'd add it to the Bill of Rights.
So it gets added to the amendments. The Bill of Rights is just those first 10 amendments. Then after that, they're just considered amendments to the Constitution. But it's not just the president. He can't just decide something and have it happen all on his own. It has to get approved by the House and by the Senate. There's lots of steps, which is what makes us governed by the people and not just like having a king. Okay? All right, so I would like you guys to take out your planners. Slide this up. I think some of you might still be writing a little bit. In our planner, we are going to do benchmark day 1. And that is in your Otis assessments. I think in Otis, though, it's called like benchmark unit 1, week 1. But you are only completing day 1 on that. It's 2 slides. You're going to do slide 2 and 3. Okay. When you're finished with that, I'm going to slide this up now. When you're finished with that, you have your Greek and Latin roots that you can work on. Remember, Greek and Latin roots 1 through 5 need to be done by Thursday. Okay. You also, we're going to do language skills. We're going to come back to that after lunch. So don't worry about language skills right now, but when we do come back after lunch for language skills, I want you to have that writer's notebook because you're going to need to actually use a pencil and write some stuff down in there. Let's just add iReady to this also. So benchmark, Greek and Latin roots, iReady. If you didn't finish math earlier, you can work on your math. And then we will break. Make sure you take a break at 12:10. And we are back at 12:40.
Miss Triplet, what if we already finished iReady?
Then you have all of the other independent activities that you can do.
Okay.
Okay? If you're good and you don't have any questions, you can log off and get to work. Otherwise, I am here for questions. If you missed part of the lesson or you didn't have a chance to, get it all copied down or get it all highlighted,